Good evening, intuitives. The idea of vengeance has been something I've been thinking of and how that affects INFJs. But before I get into that, please like, subscribe, and check if you did subscribe if you're unsubscribed. Because I get this weird thing going where every 2 subscribers I get, I lose one. And I don't know, maybe I'm just that controversial. Who knows? But anyway, INFJs and vengeance. While INFJs are, without a doubt, the most intuitive of all the types, and we are, pretty high up there as far as empathy goes too. We are also known for our dark side, for our unique and fearsome and straight up terrifying anger that is often justified, and our sense of vengeance. INFJs can hold a grudge and do seek vengeance, although vengeance is usually justified. Now, what leads us to do that? Well, there are situations in an INFJ's life where they may see an entire system broken or corruption. Good old boys clubs comes to mind. Gee, I wonder why. And in those instances, we feel a sense of duty to speak out, particularly if we ourselves, any INFJ, was harmed by that system. We want to shatter that system so no one else can be wronged in the way we are, and we will seek vengeance against the person or institution that wronged us and continues to perpetuate that system of abuse, exploitation, corruption, nepotism, etc. And a vengeful INFJ doesn't care about the odds. Vengeful INFJ will consider themselves a one-man army and try to take on the world if that's what it takes. There is no stopping an INFJ on a vengeance quest. Now, we understand things take time. It's the other thing about us. A vengeful INFJ, remembers what others forgotten. So, may take years, may take a long time. Things may have to lay low for a while. That INFJ will gather information and make their moves in order to take their vengeance, and that doesn't necessarily mean violence. Exposure in the modern world is often more useful and tactful than just blind rage and violence. A lot of times, especially if you're dealing with someone who is high profile and is a scumbag and, tries to hide it, hides it real well, they fear being exposed and seen for what they really are. This is particularly true with narcissists, and a lot of people who INFJs seek vengeance against, if you're talking about a specific person, that person is usually a narcissist, and the INFJ sees right through them, and kind of what makes the INFJ a target. I did a video on that, by the way. So, the INFJ in this sense will take their time and will find a way to expose, say, that institution for what really goes on behind closed doors that they don't want anybody to know. INFJ will tell to whoever will listen and will ensure it gets exposed to the best of that INFJ's ability, and thus force positive change, because once the secrets are out, something's got to be done. Can't hide it anymore. Can't sweep it back under the rug. Can't, put the cat back in the bag kind of thing. And that is usually how status quos are broken. Things are brought to light. Old boys clubs exposed, etc. That's why an INFJ is often the driving force behind such changes, or even in parts of larger groups seeking vengeance against institutions for institutional wrongs and institutional changes that need to take place. The INFJ will often, quote, be on the vanguard of that army, so to say. And again, there's historical precedents for this. Gandhi, Mandela, for example. You can even argue Christ. If you're a Christian, he is A lot of people say he was an INFJ, and guy was trying to reform Judaism. That was kind of his goal. You know, you know, didn't really end well for him, though. I don't know. Seemed like a decent guy. A lot of people invoke his name wrongly to gain power and wealth, like televangelists, especially that one who really pisses me off. Tricks working class people to pay for his upgraded private jet and thinks he can cure COVID through the television screen and has had more facelifts than, 70-something-year-old actors. And I keep talking because I'm blanking on his name. Kenneth Copeland, that's the one. That has got to be the sleaziest televangelist. Hopefully some INFJ will rightfully seek vengeance against him for being a fraud and a con artist, because that's what he is. And he's kind of a cult leader, but, Christian cults usually get away with stuff like that. But in all honesty, Kenneth Copeland's no better than David Miscavige. Just because he wears a cross doesn't give him a pass. But anyway, an INFJ seeking vengeance isn't just seeking vengeance for themselves. Again, they're trying to prevent further victims of the person or institution that wronged the INFJ. And oftentimes, INFJs will also seek vengeance for others who are just not the quote-unquote fighting type. But due to our empathetic nature, particularly if that's somebody we care about, we will feel the need to try to help that person, perhaps give them some closure, and expose a monster for a monster, and expose an institution as broken, corrupt, sexist, racist, etc. So, when an INFJ is seeking vengeance, again, the INFJ doesn't really want the attention for doing it. It's just, this has to be done. Somebody has to lead this damn thing. God damn it, I'll do it. Like for the cause kind of thing. But it is a big part of who we are. It is why we are often the people in the quote-unquote vanguard of change, leading the fight towards change. And just given our nature is we believe all people deserve to be treated and judged for who they truly are and how they treat people, how they act, and the hell with their titles or wealth or fame or status or how good they play sports ball or what movie they were in, or what office they hold kind of thing. Yeah, that don't impress me much. That's my grandfather would have said in his broken English with his Italian accent. But that's just a big part of who we are, that the rules should apply to everybody equally. We abhor double standards, and we believe in integrity and truth above all else. So yes, no matter the person, no matter the institution, no matter, how big that Goliath is, we're going to try to swing that rock and take it down in the name of truth, honor, justice, integrity. And yes, vengeance can be justified. One must be careful though, my fellow INFJs. Vengeance can at times become an obsession. And that's not good. Because while vengeance is a lot of times justified and change needs to happen, you cannot let it completely consume you, even if it is what is driving you at the moment. Because if vengeance completely consumes you, then, well, kind of a miserable son of a bitch, because you don't really think of anything else other than how to, complete your little vengeance quest. And you have to understand that things often take time and planning, and it always takes longer than you think. And you always think like, well, if I don't do this now, it'll never get done, and nothing will change, and more people will be hurt, and I got to do it now, because all or nothing, damn it. And that's a hard cycle of thought to break. Not that I've dealt with it recently or anything. It's not like I was wronged by a powerful, rich county government that is a old boys club and claims not to be. It tries to sweep abuse of people under the rug and, tries to cover up acts of racism and even rapes. It's not like, I'm familiar with a system like that or anything. This is all for instance. Classic INFJ on a vengeance quest, and I'm going to mention it again because I love these video games when I was a teen, is follow the story of Raziel, his story arc in the Legacy of Kain series. He was utterly destroyed by a corrupt tyrant who, well, I'm not going to get into Kain's motives because it is explained later, and it gets into that whole edge of the coin thing that I love so much, that Nietzschean paradox kind of thing. But this was a guy who was consumed by vengeance, who was doing it not only for his personal hatred and his own sense of revenge. Revenge and vengeance are different. But doing it to, in essence, create a better world. And for those of you who played Legacy of Kain, early on, Raziel truly believed, like, well, he's the last standing of the pillars. If I kill him, the world can begin anew. That was kind of his motivation. And I use that as a point to prove that in a lot of times, taking on the Goliath, so to say, to use, terms a lot of people know about. Taking on the Goliath, the INFJ is not doing it for notoriety, for fame or fortune. A lot of times they do it because no one else will, or no one else will lead the charge because, it's a forlorn hope, it won't go well, and sometimes it doesn't. But they do it because they know if nobody does, then nothing will change. And if nothing will change, a lot of fucked up shit will happen and no one will be held accountable for it. And we just can't have that, Whether it's, to redeem Nosgoth or to destroy the ones who've wronged you. The INFJ will take their time, will convince others that their vengeance is righteous and justified, and will in a very detail-oriented manner, explain why this must be done, why these changes need to take place, and the better world or better organization or structure will therefore be if this vengeance is taken and this person and or institution is exposed and held accountable for their crimes, as they should be, as anybody should be, regardless of who they are, what they do. My rant on that. So that, in a nutshell, explains INFJ Vengeance, how our integrity and actually our empathy as well. It is our empathy towards others that helps drive our vengeance because, being able to feel others' pain, it's like, wow, that's, to put it lightly and sarcastically kind of, wow, that's fucked up. You can't just let that go. Something's got to be done. And we're often the ones willing to speak out because, again, other than people that we genuinely respect or want to get to know or perhaps have a crush on, we really don't give a damn what people think about us. We don't care about, what the good old boys club thinks about us. We welcome their hatred because they're, a type of organization that should have been destroyed long ago and thus still survives and is often celebrated, even though the basis of it is exclusion, nepotism, and cronyism, times elitism, depending on which one you're talking about specifically. But INFJ vengeance is often justified. It is often for the greater good, and it does often cause positive change at times, depending on what you're trying to take on. You often don't get the amount of change you want, but the other thing to remember is if you're the first speaking up of something, you'll give cover for others to speak up and join the cause and create more change and expand that picture of what really goes on behind closed doors at this corrupt institution even better, because nobody wants to be first, first in line, first to die kind of thing. Nobody wants to, nobody wants to be on that front line of that battle, really. Yeah. So be brave enough to be first in that situation. Others will usually follow and tell their stories because, You don't want anybody else to go through what you went through, and everybody should be held accountable for their actions and misdeeds, regardless of who they are. So remember, vengeance isn't always a bad thing. The motives behind it are important. What your end game is important. How you plan to execute it is important. And vengeance is different than revenge. Remember that. But along the way, even if your vengeance is justified, do not sell out your integrity for your vengeance, and trust your intuition along the way about how to best accomplish it.